Let the people sing their stories and their songs and the music of their native land. Their lullabies and battle cries and songs of hope and joy. So join us hand in hand. All across this ancient land, throughout the test of time, it was music that kept their spirits free. Those songs of yours and mine. For those who are in love, there's a song that's warm and tender. For those who are oppressed, in song you can protest. So liberate your mind and give your soul expression. Open up your hearts and I'll sing for you this song. Let the people sing their stories and their songs and the music of their native land. Their lullabies and battle cries and songs of hope and joy. So join us hand in hand. All across this ancient land, throughout the test of time, it was music that kept their spirits free. Those songs of yours and mine. It was back in ancient times, the bard would tell his stories of heroes and of villains, of chieftains in the glen. With the passages of time, with passion and with glory, to those who've gone before, I'll sing to you once more. Let the people sing their stories and their songs and the music of their native land. Their lullabies and battle cries and songs of hope and joy. So join us hand in hand. All across this ancient land, throughout the test of time, it was music that kept their spirits free. Those songs of yours and mine. Island land of song, your music lives forever, in its valleys, in its mountains, in its hills and in its glens. Our music did survive through famine and oppression. To generations gone, I'll sing to you this song. Let the people sing their stories and their songs and the music of their native land. Their lullabies and battle cries and songs of hope and joy. So join us hand in hand. All across this ancient land, throughout the test of time, it was music that kept their spirits free. Those songs of yours and mine. Let the people sing their stories and their songs and the music of their native land. Their lullabies and battle cries and songs of hope and joy. So join us hand in hand. All across this ancient land, throughout the test of time, it was music that kept their spirits free. Those songs of yours and mine. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of the lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams alone. That was the best day of our lives. That was the best day of our lives. Caesar held the cup up high. Underneath that light in the sky, history was born on that warm night. It was the 25th day of May. The dream became reality. The legend lives on forevermore. The night the mighty lions roared. That was the best day of our lives. The day we won the greatest prize. Oh, how our hearts they soared with pride. Right underneath that Lisbon sky, that was the best day of our lives. That was the best day of our lives. One down and the game had just begun. But in our hearts we knew that we would overcome. They said our chance was all but gone. But up stepped Tommy, then came Stevie, and the score it was 2-1. Yeah, the legend lives on forevermore. The night the mighty lions roared. That was the best day of our lives. The day we won the greatest prize. Oh, how our hearts they soared with pride. Right underneath that Lisbon sky.
Hello and welcome to the latest Celtic View podcast, the podcast of the 9-in-a-row champions. I'm Paul Cuddihy, the editor of the Celtic View, and I'm delighted to be joined on this episode of the podcast by my Celtic View colleague Joe Donnelly, and a special guest is the Celtic FC Foundation Chief Executive Tony Hamilton. Tony, thanks for joining us, and it's nice to see you've got a spotlight shining down on you and all the good work you're doing.
It actually follows me around, Paul. This light, it's part of the setup here. But thanks for having me on.
I decided for this week I would go for some subtle product placement with the new fresh mint lime green away top. I have to say, and I've said in the Celtic View, I am in love with this top, and it does take me back, and I'm sure with you as well, Tony, to that wonderful day in 1986 at Love Street.
It's just such an iconic, event in our Celtic supporting lives. And 5 minutes into the game last night, I had a bit of a flashback, obviously, when it wasn't gone our way. But all's well that ends well.
So I'm hoping in the back of people, obviously for people who are listening to this podcast, they just have to imagine the fact that I'm wearing this top, but hopefully then people that will see it will rush out to the superstore or online and buy it. Joe, as always, is kitted out in his Adidas gear. Joe, we were talking about, Tony just briefly mentioned the game at St Mirren Park. It was a tough game, but ultimately one that we deserved to win. Takes us closer to the top of the table, and it was important that game in hand that we got the 3 points.
That's it. I mean, following Saturday's game, obviously a really convincing result up in Dingwall, given it was the game in hand, or one of the games in hand, which at one point we weren't really sure when we were going to get it. They were talking about the fixtures being so tight with European football and international breaks and stuff that we weren't really sure when we could fit these games in. We've obviously got one more to go. It was quite a tight game. It was quite a hard-fought game at times. St Mirren obviously packed the defence for long spells of the games. But, before the game, if you'd have said 2-1, it's an extra 3 points to take us closer, then you'd absolutely taken that beforehand.
and is James Forrest's official biographer, which I always like to tell people on the podcast. I think that was only his second headed goal ever in his tally, which is fast approaching 100. But what a goal he scored!
It was a brilliant goal, wasn't it? It was some really good product placement on the podcast already. We're only a few minutes in. Yeah, James Forrest's book, you should go out and buy that as well. It's nearly Christmas. No, it was a brilliant header. I think that's his third for Celtic. He scored a tap-in goal a number of seasons ago. I'd have to go back and check the book. This is terrible. I can't remember off the top of my head. I blame being tired because I'm raising a 2-year-old in the house at the minute. But that one was a really, really good header, wasn't it? We almost expect the big guys to get up for the headers. Obviously, Shane Duffy got a second header in 2 games. He's had a great start to the Celtic career so far. And an unlikely header from James Forrest, but one that any player in any position in the pitch would be proud of.
And Tony, Joe just touched on it there. Shane Duffy, 2 games, 2 goals. I think he's going to be an absolutely brilliant signing for us.
I mean, it's good to get somebody who everybody knows, I think, and a guy who is so obviously happy that he's joining this football club. You know, he spoke about his dad. He lost his dad. He was a reasonably young man. And he's just so proud and so happy and so committed. And it's just, I think it's given everybody a lift, actually, and he's been great. You know, he's been absolutely brilliant, because if you look back, apart from the Island games, I think he's only played maybe 1 or 2 full games since the start of this year. So for him to come in and hit the ground running, and play in a slightly different position last night as well, and then escape there with all 3 points, because that's really what this season's all about. It's about getting through each game, win at any cost. It doesn't have to be pretty. We don't have to score 5 goals. You know, I'll take 1-0 or 2-1 or 8-7 any week here. Just get out with the points.
Someone on the attack now. The ball nudged out wide to the left-hand side, edge of the box. It's curled into the 6-yard box, and Taylor forced to chest it behind. He knew there was Junior Marias lurking behind him. First corner kick of the evening goes to St Mirren. There are players at the penalty spot. Forrest and Edward have stayed out of the penalty area as the ball's fired towards the edge of the 6-yard box. It's knocked across and it's scrambled into the back of the net. Might have been Irwin, or it could have just taken a touch off Christie, but the end result with 2.5 minutes gone is a goal for the home side.
Yeah, it just flicked on at the near post here on the front part of the 6-yard box and kind of spun to the back. And I don't know if it was Irwin at the back. It wasn't a clean finish, but it spun away from Barkas in goal, and 1-0 St Mirren.
El Hamid challenges there. The ball knocked out of play, and it's a free kick. McGregor fouled, and Celtic have the first set piece opportunity. Christie on the ball, ready to swing this, left-footed in. Almost 21 minutes on the clock. First chance for Celtic to test the defence. The ball's played into the area. It's a chance, it's a goal, and who else? Shane Duffy, 2 goals, 2 games.
Well, we just spoke about it there before the free kick. You know, such a threat. Great delivery in. Attacks it just outside the 6-yard box, and it's 1 each.
Fires it out wide to Chris Ayer. He seems to be all over the pitch tonight. Back again to Brown. Well, the big men have stayed up. Duffy's still looking about in the edge of the area. Christie curls it across, and it's headed back in the back of the net. Wonderful finish there. Well, I think I'll need to put my glasses on, because that looks like a James Forrest header. That is an absolute bullet of a header from one of the smallest players in the park.
Whipped right onto his head from Ryan Christie here. A great cross in beyond Shane Duffy to the smallest player on the pitch, and he's bulleted that into the top corner. What a header.
Watson Edward steps forward, fires it low, and it's saved. Well, Zlamal had to be alert and pushes it behind for a corner.
It's a great save, at a difficult height, whipped in, coming into him low, and he's just managed to get 2 strong hands on it and put it by for a corner.
You saw Christie making that run in off the left channel at that time. McGregor didn't have the space to loft it. McGregor goes down, and there it is, a penalty. Well, he
defensively. A mistake there. I think the St Mirren defender was trying to shield it out of play. Full credit to Christie, gets his body in front and forces the foul. Well, not too many complaints from St Mirren. Frustration for Jamie McGrath. A chance for Odsonne Edouard, the French striker, the Czech goalkeeper. Odsonne Edouard steps up and it's saved. Well, Zlamal guessed correctly and dived to his right hand side, pushed the ball away, denies the Frenchman, and it's still 2-1 Celtic. Celtic edging closer to the victory. It was 2-1 the last time they were here. More comfortable, I think, but they've had to fight hard for that one. The ball towards Ayeti. Gives it to Christie. Christie. It's saved again by Zlamal. A good save. Well, good play there between Ayeti setting up Ryan Christie, but once more Zlamal has come to his side's rescue. The boys have got over the line, and Neil Lennon will be delighted to go back to Celtic Park with the 3 points.
Yeah, I'd take 8-7 every week if we were with them. That would be fantastic. But
God, that sounds too nerve-wracking for me.
But it's remarkable, Tony, that, you know, maybe a few weeks ago we've the 2 games in hand, but obviously we're a few points behind in the league. If we win on Saturday against Livingston, we go top of the table. The Rangers are playing through at Edinburgh against Hibernian on the Sunday, which is a tough game for both those sides. But suddenly things have a different complexion at the top of the Premiership.
You know, things change very, very quickly in Scottish football. We were told not that long ago that we could be looking down the barrel of an 11-point gap for a period in time. And you're right, you know, if we beat Livingston, and everybody's got a different objective this season. Rangers' objective clearly is to stop us winning 10 consecutive championships. You know, Hibernian and Aberdeen might be to finish third or higher or European football. And there's a whole series of other teams who are fighting to avoid relegation. So everybody's got something to play for, especially at this time in the season. So it's not a formality that we're going to beat Livingston. It's a home game. We don't have a crowd. And we know what that looks like because we've seen enough of these in the past few weeks. So it's not going to be a formality. I am genuinely and honestly less interested in what happens in Edinburgh. I say this regularly on social media. It's all about the Celtic, and that's what it's all about this weekend as well.
And obviously, Joe, you know, the fact that we've got the home game against Livingston, who've started, you know, probably disappointingly by their standards from last season. They've not really hit the ground running. So the team must be getting into the game in full of confidence. 3 points. The manager spoke about it post-match last night, about the fact that it does give us the chance to get back on top of the table where we belong.
Yeah, I don't think these players really need an incentive, but if ever there was one, it's been a bit stop-start. I heard Scott Brown saying that on his Celtic TV Zoom call yesterday. Callum McGregor said it to myself for the match programme at the weekend. Obviously the 2 games and the 2-game postponement and international break, and it's just been, and obviously the kind of a little bit fault as well with it, the fans being there and stuff, but to try and hit that momentum and what a time to kind of start to be coming into their own. Good result on Saturday, good hard-fought result last night, and then Livingston, who, I mean, they've had a bit of a strange start. Last season, in the 3 games we played, there was 2 each was the last one up there. Obviously, we get beat 2-0 the first game at the Tony Macaroni Arena, but then 4-0 at Celtic Park in the second of the 3 games. So gladly take another result like that. But as Tony said, you know, take 1-0. I don't know if I'd go 8-7. I don't know if my nerves could handle that over the course of 90 minutes. But yeah, any result that sees us with the 3 points and it's top of the league would be more than ideal.
And keeping up with the whole idea of product placement, and we were speaking of Shane Duffy, the latest issue of the Celtic View is out now. Head boy Shane Duffy. It's a great image actually of from his first goal at Ross County, obviously just glancing to heaven, and as you said, Tony, just, you know, sadly his dad had passed away not that long ago, and I'm sure he's looking down very proud of his son. And you wouldn't bet against Shane Duffy making it 3 out of 3 on Saturday afternoon.
I mean, I think for the first time in a long time, we look as if we're a threat at set pieces. I don't think we could have said that, you know, regularly up until this point. And that's good because it's not just him, it's Ayer and Big Chris Julian as well. So we've got a real chance at set pieces now. I honestly don't care who scores the goals or what they look like. I think I will be astonished if I come through this season intact because my nerves are very, very fraught already, and we're just at the very early stages of this.
Now, obviously, we wanted to get you on to talk about football, but more than that, we want to talk about, well, two things. First of all, just to dispel this idea that you have a face for radio, but also we want to, I think one of the things that we should be always heralding, shouting from the rooftops is Celtic FC Foundation, but particularly over the last few months, the work that the foundation has done, for me, has been extraordinary. The amount of money that's been raised through the work of the guys at the foundation, through our supporters near and far, well over £700,000, going to the people who need it most in terms of the kind of services that have been provided, but also NHS frontline staff. And obviously it's an ongoing work for you and all the guys at the foundation, but you must be pleased with this, obviously, the response that supporters have given when you launched the Football for Good fund.
I think the work of the foundation since March is a real credit, as you've mentioned, Paul, to the supporters, not just in Glasgow, but the Celtic supporters across the world. It's also a credit to the people at the football club who've contributed and who facilitated this and made it possible. And clearly to a whole series of other parts of the population, the foundation trustees, for example, and a network of people that we're lucky to have across the world because of what Celtic means to people, and we're very, very grateful for that. So it's not just at the point where we've been doing this Football for Good fund for 6 months and it's time to go back to normal. That's not on the horizon at the moment. So Football for Good is probably going to roll into our annual Christmas appeal, which is normally a big focus for us, and that will continue for the rest of this calendar year. And what a year 2020's been.
Well, it has been unique, it has to be said. One of the things, there's various things I wanted to mention. The first one that's on the horizon, just ahead of, as we look forward to the Livingston game, you have a virtual food drive. You've obviously had in the past actual food drives where there's been collections for food banks. They've been very well, fans have really supported them. This time, obviously, there's no supporters, but you want people to, there's a Just Giving page, people can donate what they can in order for, again, through your partnerships with food banks, in order to then buy the necessary food to help people.
Yeah, there's a news story on CelticFC.net, and I'm sure there'll be a reminder on the club website and through the social channels between now and Saturday. And if people can contribute to that's great. That's fantastic. A lot of people who will be listening to us and reading that story will be the people who, sadly, in this environment, in this climate, need some help. And I'm really, really mindful that we're continually, while we're doing these things and we're trying to put food on people's tables, we're also constantly asking people for things. I'm really aware of that. I genuinely have that awareness, whether it's the football department or whether it's supporters or whoever else it is. I'm really, really switched on to the fact that not everybody can help all of the time. So if people can do what they can, that would be first class.
Now, if you're either listening to this podcast or watching the podcast, if you're a season ticket holder and you'll be tuning in on Saturday for the game, obviously the game kicks off at 3 o'clock. From about 1 o'clock, if you're tuning in, not only will you get a chance to watch us again, which is obviously a bonus, but Liam McGrandles is going to be playing a kind of a gig for half an hour. That'll all be happening ahead of the pre-match show, which will start at 2:30. So it's well worth tuning in early, and there'll also be details of where you can tune in. You can also donate to Football for Good as well. So certainly tune in early, give often, and I suppose that's the message for supporters.
Absolutely, and Liam is another example of a guy who's been a great help for us at Celtic FC Foundation over the years. He's involved in a lot of our events. We've got an annual New York event, which is a virtual New York event this year, and he's helping with that as well. And it's great that he's going to come and do this pre-match show on Saturday, and hopefully we can make a difference. As you mentioned, Paul, we've got a partnership with the Glasgow North East Food Bank, which is run at the Church of Scotland in Helenvale Street here, and the feedback from the community, whether it's the food bank or other parts of the community, is that People are really struggling at the moment, really, really struggling. People are worried. There's no, to use the phrase consumer confidence, people are worried about two things here. They're worried about health, their own health, their family's health, going out, getting COVID, the chances of getting it. And they're also worried about wealth in terms of they've lost their job, or they're losing their job, or they're maybe long-term furlough and they don't know what the future looks like. So there's so much uncertainty. So again, for those who are in a position to help, we'd be really, really grateful.
And Joe, I know we've had conversations in the office before about the work of the foundation, particularly I think over the last few months of Football for Good, and just the amount of money that's been raised to help people. And I think as supporters, first and foremost, I'm sure everybody who's watching or listening, there's a real sense of pride in what has been done in the club's name. Yeah,
definitely. It's remarkable what you guys do at the Celtic FC Foundation, Tony. I think one of the great things about having you on this podcast is not just to talk about the great stuff that you're doing, but I think that when we don't have the football, certainly as a fan who I've been fortunate enough to be able to work through everything that's been going on in the middle of the pandemic, and my family are in a pretty good place. But it's easy to forget the work that you guys do when you're not at the football, when you're not seeing everybody wearing the badges every weekend, or with the collection buckets, or the food drives in person. To have you on to just be gently reminded, it's good for people like myself who, I definitely will be donating as we move forward, and just to continue to keep the charity going. And I say we're in a fortunate position where we can host the stories on the website and stuff like that. And it's just good to, whilst we're feeling a wee bit disconnected from everything, it's good to have you on and just remember the great work that the charity's doing as well, and how we can be involved as fans ongoing as well.
And one of the things I should mention, obviously for people who are listening to this, again, you just have to take my word for it, but people who are watching it, you might be wondering what the picture is just to behind Tony's left shoulder. And I have to say, it's one of my favourite goals I've ever seen at Celtic Park. And out of the three of us, there's only one man who's actually scored at Celtic Park. And Tony, I know that...
is that in the shot? That's remarkable that that's in the shot.
It's just a coincidence. It was a last-minute header. It was a real penalty box instincts. I genuinely, it is one of my favourite ever goals. It was a charity match that we had that was raising money for the foundation. I was at the back, you were up front, I think because you couldn't run back. But certainly it's been on mugs, it's been on, I think, T-shirts, key rings, you name it. But you obviously, it's something you must be very proud of.
It's the only thing I've ever achieved in a football park in my entire life, and I'm the wrong side of 50 now. I went to St Paul's School in Tollcross as a kid, and I made my debut for the school team in 1975 or 76, and we played Mount Vernon, who were the local team. And I came on, scored 2 own goals, we get beat 3-2, and Mr. Gillen, who was the teacher, never spoke to me again. For the rest of the time I was at the school, he never even looked at me. So I hadn't done anything for 40 years until that goal. So that's why...
Did you say it was a header, Tony? Did you say it was a header?
Well, it was a header. It was a corner and a header, and I got away for Jock McStay, who had tried to half me about a minute before. I got away for him and scored, and I'll dine out in that, Joe, for the rest of my life.
I find it interesting you were saying earlier about how we've got an aerial threat in the first team now, and that maybe wasn't the case in recent years. We're referring back to this header of yours. I think that's taken it a little bit far.
Well, so Tony Hamilton scored more goals at Celtic Park than Alfredo Morelos. And you can put that on a T-shirt. One of the other things, Tony, that's coming up again for the foundation, and it's the weekend of October the 24th, 25th. I think we're at Pittodrie on the 24th, and it's called the Walford Wander. And again, what you're doing is you're asking people to either choose a 10k distance, a half marathon, or any distance that they choose, and register and then raise money. And it's kind of, again, I think it's a good way of getting people out, fresh air, exercise, and raising money for the foundation.
Yeah, we're going to do it here. The foundation team, the entire team, and I'm in the office, but everybody's working. Those who are working remotely at the moment. So we have these Zoom calls, and we haven't really seen each other. So we're going to do it as a group socially distanced in small numbers within whatever the laws of the day are. So we're going to do something as well. I don't know how much I'll be able to do because one of my knees is made out of an old washing up liquid bottle and some sticky back plastic. But I'll do what I can. I think we're going to try and do, 10 miles or some. I don't know. I don't even want to look at it because I'll just worry about it for another month.
Joe, that's maybe something that you and I and the rest of the Celtic View team will have to have a socially distant or a Zoom call chat about to do something as well, because I think it's good if everybody can play their part. And I know it's been something that at this time of the year, it's all these events. I think the story said, for example, the Great Scottish Run or the Edinburgh Marathon. Those are events that normally loads of our supporters will take part in and raise money for. So it's a way of trying to allow people still to do their bit. Because I think that's what supporters want to do, Joe. It's just they want to play their part in whatever way they can.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think like uncertainty and the new norm is the phrase that we keep hearing. And yeah, and that's kind of what I was touching upon earlier, in the sense that whilst I personally would always try and donate to the foundation at the events which are held at Celtic Park, because we're not having those, it's just keeping up to speed with how do we donate, how do we keep ourselves involved in charity. And whilst nobody would have wished any of what's been happening in 2020 on us this time last year or whatever, one of the things in terms of looking at the positives from bad situations is that sense of community, which we're seeing up and down the country, particularly around football. And I think when you're bringing the charitable elements into it, I think even if a fan wasn't aware that something was going on, like you're saying, the runs and walks and something like that, but as soon as they become aware, I think in order to still feel that connectedness with the club and the charitable aspects, I dare say fans will be really desperate to be involved.
Great. And the other great story, Tony, that I think over the last couple of weeks, and when I read it, I thought it was fantastic, was the money that's been given to Mary's Meals. Just to over and above I think it was over 365,000 in the initial investment with the 67 kitchens over in Africa. I think it's 47 in Malawi, 20 in Zambia, another 100,000. And I think for me, it's that sense that we always look outwards. That Celtic is a global name, but our concern has always been beyond just our own community. And that's the heart of the club. It's the heart of the supporters.
The Mary's Meals is a great story, actually. It takes us back to 2017, where we had this Lions Legacy campaign to commemorate the 50th anniversary, and we took a few of the Lions to Lisbon, and we had a series of events, including a big dinner in London. And Gerard Burns, who's a Scottish artist and a great friend of ours, did this painting, which is in the boardroom now, which we sold, and the owner gave us it back to hang in the boardroom. And supporters clubs really across the world have contributed magnificently to this. So the real credit goes to Gerard and to the Lions and to the supporters clubs. But to keep that going through this, but COVID and Football for Good is definitely our primary focus right now. But just to be able to keep this going and say that we can look beyond ourselves right now is something that I think every Celtic supporter should be really proud of. And we're close to £500,000 with Mary's Meals now, and those 40-odd thousand kids getting fed every day is a direct result of that happening.
Because I always think that's a great partnership, because I think Mary's Meals is a great charity as well, and what they do, and I think that it fits perfectly, I think, with what Celtic FC Foundation are doing as well.
Yeah, what I like about Mary's Meals is it's not complicated and it's not clever. What they do is they say to kids, if you come to get fed, we'll get you an education. Or if you come and get an education, we'll feed you. So it's just as simple as that. It's no any more complicated than that.
Joe, and again, just touching on the fact that we're looking beyond our shores, and I think sometimes, and you see elsewhere, can be sometimes a sense of looking with suspicion at people from other countries either want to come here. I think, but again, part of our DNA is, I think that might be Neil Lennon phoning to see if you're ready for a penalty box striker on Saturday, Tony. But you know that idea of like, you know, we are born of Irish immigration to Glasgow, but we've always welcomed people from other countries, but also again are always out there looking to help those who need it most, regardless of where that is and regardless of who they are.
Yeah, it's the DNA of the club, isn't it? A club for all. And again, everything that you've said in this podcast, Tony, it's so admirable. And yeah, I mean, I do think that, yeah, like I said before, about it is a time where everybody's really struggling in some way or form. Some people are a lot worse off than others. And whether that's, you know, your next door neighbour or if it's somebody in a different country, this is a global pandemic. So, you know, charitable aspects of charities all over the world, you know, like the world needs it. And it's so, it makes me proud to be a Celtic supporter that we've got that reach, you know, on our doorstep and also in countries beyond.
Joe, we're going to just turn back briefly to the football before we finish up. Probably by the time this podcast comes out, we'll know where we're heading next week in our next stage of our European campaign. It's Riga versus Tre Fiori, so Latvian side versus San Marino. It's Thursday. It's a one-off tie, so we're either going to Latvia or San Marino. Is there a preference, or is it, you know, either side going to be, especially being away and having to travel, going to be equally tricky?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Ferencváros game, as disappointing as it was, probably showed us that these games, one-off games, whilst we can say it must be difficult with no fans or the fact that it is only one tie, when you see it in practice, like the last game in the Champions League qualifier, we were unsuccessful, you can see how challenging it can be. And travelling obviously makes that a little bit more difficult. I think that the players and the manager and the backroom staff will use the last disappointing result and think back to the really successful, particularly group stage campaign that we had in Europa League last year. They were going to do everything. So no matter where they go, I'm sure that they'll be going with the focus and determination to get the win there.
I suppose, Tony, I know that the focus for all of us as supporters is the league and getting the 10, but still important for the team. And we saw it last season with that Europa League group stage campaign that we had, the boost that the team can get from a good European run as well.
I think it's part of who we are here. You know, big European nights, which, you know, look a wee bit further up the park at the moment, but it's still great to have the football here. You're right, the priority clearly is to go and win the league, win 10 in a row. But it would be really painful for everybody at the football club, I'm sure, if we never had European football of some sort. And I would be astonished if we're not going to Latvia.
Well, we shall see shortly. I'm going to ask you finally, we're going to finish off by looking back at that. Joe mentioned it earlier on, the 4-0 victory over Livingston the last time they were at Celtic Park. I'm going to finish by putting you on the spot for a prediction. You can say 8-7 if you want. It's probably unlikely, but it would be remarkable.
I always think Celtic are going to win, no matter who we're playing or where we're playing them. That's the starting point. And I tend to go for 3-0, so I'll stick with that. I think Livingston's strength is playing at home against the teams who don't play in plastic pitches. I think that's really their strength. I'm not saying that they're not dangerous away from home, but they tend to fare better at home against the rest of the league, apart from Kilmarnock and Hamilton, who are equipped to play on that. I think we'll be too strong for them. There's too much at stake here. You can apply that to every game between now and the end of the season, but I think Celtic will be too strong, and it'll be 3-0 for Neil Lennon's team.
3-0. And Joe, I know you've spoke to Callum McGregor for the March programme on Sunday, which again for season ticket holders, they'll be able to access the digital version of that. And what's your thoughts for the game?
I think it will be, I don't know, I never ever get these right. I think 1-0, and I think that Callum McGregor will score, which will be his 50th goal for Celtic, because he's sitting on the cusp of that milestone. I don't know. 8-7. Who knows?
I'm going to go for 4-0. As I said earlier on, if you are a season ticket holder and you're listening or you're watching this, if you want to tune in early from about 1ish on Saturday, not only will you be able to watch this podcast again, but Liam McGrandles is going to be playing for about half an hour or so. It's all part of the fundraising drive for Celtic FC Foundation. There is a virtual food drive which is happening this weekend. There'll be details on the website, and obviously there'll be details on this podcast, and also from Liam McGrandle's set at the weekend, where you can donate, and it helps the work of the foundation in partnership with Glasgow North East Food Bank. Tony, thanks for joining us on the podcast. Apart from anything else, it gave you a chance to relive that memorable moment at Celtic Park when you scored a goal.
Listen, I find an opportunity every day to talk to somebody about that, to be honest. But
is that in short? How did that end up there? Come on.
Thanks for having me on, and can I just say thanks to your listeners and readers and viewers, everybody who's supported Football for Good to this point, and everybody who's going to support it between now and the end of the year. Thanks very, very much.
Well, that's a good way to finish the podcast. We are now going to sign off with those 4 goals that Celtic scored against Livingston the last time they visited Paradise. Play from Callum McGregor. Fraser Foster, left-footed, flips it up towards the halfway line. He's looking for Odsonne Edouard. He's challenged there by Lamy. And Celtic, Goggins tries to thread that one through towards Odsonne Edouard. He's on the side, he clips it. Wonderful skill from the Frenchman. It's goal number 14. It's goal number 10 in the league. And as soon as he got it, it stayed onside. Wonderful technique. It's almost a better one of all the M champ from Rome, and Celtic have the lead. It's 1-0.
Yeah, what a man who's in form is Edouard. Clean through, and if you want somebody to be having on the ball, 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper, you want it in this guy who is in the top drawer form just now. Wonderful pass, that through pass it was from Tom Rogers. Just whether it could get by Lamy. It did. And then you knew Edouard was going to put that in the back of the net.
Here comes Celtic again with McGregor. Switch it to Taylor. Well, he managed to get it onto his left foot, but denied by the woodwork. Forrest. Into the area. Stabs it inside towards Christie. Across now to Brown. Brown takes a touch. Takes a shot. It takes a deflection. And it's the Bruni again. And Celtic leads by 2 goals to nil. And it's the captain with the strike.
Well, it's been great for me to get it. He's 550 now, got it 551st. And that was actually tailor-made for him, but obviously I think it did take a big deflection. He's not complaining. He's celebrating as though he's put it into the top corner, and he'll take the adulations. But as I say, the kind of goal that we thought we could have got in the second half, and off the knee of Guthrie, was it, who couldn't do anything about it. But Bruni will be claiming that every much is what a striker would want to do, and that for me is the game finished.
Comes Celtic again, a chance for Jeremy Frimpong. Could he score his second goal for Celtic? He's through on goal, chance for Frimpong. He blasts at the goalkeeper, he breaks towards Forrest, volleys it!
An absolutely stunning finish from James Wallace. The difficulty of taking a ball that is coming straight down to you and actually meeting it perfectly and putting it in. And obviously same Jeremy Frimpong's blushes because he should have been putting the ball in the back of the net, but I suppose you could call it another assist from Jeremy. Finding it towards the goal. He tried to hit it high, got the goalkeeper went down, he stood up very well. And then what a finish from James Forrest.
Here they come again, Lee Griffiths. Battling for that one. Celtic with 4 minutes to try and get another goal. The ball through, it's a chance for Forrest. Can he get his second of the afternoon? Forrest, he does! James Forrest shoots! James Forrest scores! And Celtic leads by 4 goals to 0.
And that's probably a true reflection on the gulf between the teams today. James Forrest showing great composure as he's banging through on goal. Clean through, 1-on-1. Goalkeeper, absolutely no chance. James Forrest getting the second goal of the day, and more of a reflective to a performance. Wonderful play it was initially from Ryan Christie. The interception, it was a poor pass, admittedly from the Livingston player, not sure who that was, but Ryan Christie was on to in the flash. And 4 now, absolutely fantastic.
Hello, my name's Neil McGrandles. I'm proud to be here today to support the Celtic FC Foundation and the Football for Good Fund. This first song's an old one called Willy Mealy. Here we go. Willy Mealy. great names to the game. When he was a boss at Celtic Park, he taught him how to play football. He made the greatest of them all. And Gallagher and Cohen had left their mark. And they gave us James McGrory and Paul McStay. They gave us Hanson, Tully, Murdoch, Golden Hay. And most of the football greats have passed through Parkhead's gates for to play football the Glasgow Celtic way. In 38 there was a show, Glasgow was the place to go. The motto of the tower was football's pride. England sent four of the best. They didn't meet with much success, cause the trophy ended up in paradise. And they gave us James McGrory and Paul McStay. They gave us Hanson, Sully, Murdoch, Golden Hay. In most of the football greats have passed through Parkhead's gates for to play football the Glasgow Celtic way. Coronation time was here, 53, that was the year. Another four from England's matchday tune. They said we'll have to try again, but like before, it was in vain because the cup is in the Parkhead trophy room. And they gave us James McGrory and Paul McStay. They gave us Hanson, Sully, Murdoch, Golden Hay. And most of the football greats have passed through Parkhead's gates for to play football the Glasgow Celtic way. Then in 1957 we faced a man called George England. The game is etched on every Celtic fan. Wilson, Market and midfield, and Willie Fairley scored as well as the Celtic beats the Rangers 7-1. And they gave us James McGrory and Paul McStay. Gave us Hanson, Sully, Murdoch, Golden Hay. In most of the football greats have passed through Parkhead's gates for to play football the Glasgow Celtic way. St Years they had gone and sold to Portugal. We had to go to play a team that Italy adored. Celtic went out to attack. They won the big cup, they brought it back. It was the first time it had been on British soil. And they gave us James McGrory and Paul McStay. They gave us Hanson, Sully, Murdoch, Golden Hay. And most of the football greats have passed through Parkhead's gates for to play football the Glasgow Celtic way. To play positive way. Thank you very much, that was Willie Maley. Right folks, as I say, just a wee bit about what the Football for Good Fund is doing just now. So, in response to the COVID-19 situation, the fund is providing food and essentials to those most vulnerable, to those most in need. So any donations today are very, very much appreciated, and they go a long way. Details of how to donate will be shown on the screen as well. So thank you very much. And this next song is an old ballad. It's called The Streets of New York. Here we go. I was 18 years old when I went down to Dublin with a fistful of money and a carload of dreams. Secret time said me father, stop rushing like hell. Remember, all is not what it seems to be. For those fellas would catch you for the coat on your back, or the watch that you got from your mother. So take care, me unbuckle, and mind yourself well. Will you give this wee note to me brother? At the time Uncle Benji was policeman in Brooklyn, my father the youngest went out to the farm. When a phone call from America to send the lads over, the old fella said shoot it wouldn't do any harm. For I spent my life working this dirty old grounds for a few pints of porter and the smell of pounds. And maybe there's something you'll learn when you see how you can bring it back home, make it easy on me. So I landed at Kennedy, and a big yellow taxi carried me and me bags through the streets and the rain. Well, me poor heart was thumping around with excitement. I hardly even heard what the driver was saying. We came in the short pathway to the flatlands in Brooklyn, to my uncle's apartments on the East 53rd. I was feeling so happy, I was humming his song. I sang you're as free as a bird. When I shot him the story, what I found that day was that Benji got shot down in an uptown parade. And while I was flying my way to New York, poor Benji was lying in a cold city morgue. Well, I phoned up the old fella, told him the news. I could tell he could hardly stand up in his shoes. And he wept as he told me, go ahead with the plan, and not to forget, be a proud Irishman. So I went up to Nellie's beside Fortune Road, and I started to learn about blitzing the load. But the heaviest thing that I carried that year was the bittersweet thoughts of my hometown so dear. I went home that December 'cause the old fella died, and I borrowed the money from the bill on the side. In all the bright flowers and the brass couldn't hide the poor wasted face of me father. Sold up the old farmyard for what it was worth, and into my bag stuck a handful of earth. Then I I boarded, it's raining, I can't near plane, and I found myself in the US again. It's been 22 years since I set foot in Dublin. The kids now tears, the curate's knife and fork. But I'll never forget the green grass and the rivers as they keep law and order on the streets of New York. Na na na, 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 Thank you very much. That was the streets of New York. As I say, folks, my name is Liam McGrandles, and I'm here today to support the Celtic FC Foundation, the Football For Good fund. All details of what the fund are doing is at footballforgoodfund.com, so if you get a minute, be sure to check that out as well. This next song, it's a song you all know. It's called Let the People Sing. Here we go. For those who are in love, there's a song's warm and tender. For those who are oppressed, a song that can protest. Liberate your minds, give you soul expression. Open up your hearts, we'll sing for you this song. Let the people sing the stories and the song, and the music of their native lands. Their lullabies, battle cries, songs of hope and joy. Join us hand in hand. All across this ancient land, throughout the test of time, it was music that kept her spirit serene. Those songs of years, times of night, was back in ancient time. The Bible tells the story of the heroes and villains and the chiefs in the clan. Through Elizabethan time, Roman war and fury, her pipers to the summer, to the harbors and to par. Let the people sing the stories and the song, and the music of their native lands. Their lullabies, battle cries, songs of hope and joy. Join us hand in hand. All across this ancient land, throughout the test of time, it was music that kept her spirits free. Those songs of years and of mine. This land is your land, this land is my land. From the northern mainland to the western islands, from the hills of Kerry to the streets of Derry. This land was made for you and me. As I was walking by shining water, hand in hand with my little daughter, and the tunes were ringing, and the children singing. This land was made for you and me. So we climbed a mountain by the crystal fountain. We watched the waves roar by the rocky seashore. We saw mum was shaking. She cried, oh daddy, this lad was made for you and me. Then he walked to home and by village people, proud of my country, proud of my people. Of the men who cried there and the men who died there, saying, this lad was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land. From the northern highlands to the western islands, from the hills of Kerry to sweet South Kerry, this land was made for you and me. Ireland, land of song, your music lives forever. In your mountains and your valleys, in your hills and in your glen. Music has survived through famine and oppression. For the generations gone, we'll sing for you this song. Let the people sing their stories and their songs, and the music of their native land. Their lullabies, battle cries, songs of hope and joy. Join us hand in hand. All across this ancient land, throughout the test of time, it was music that kept her spirits serene. Those songs of yours and of mine, those songs of yours and of mine.
Thank you very much. That was let people sing. Right, folks, as I say, my name is Liam McRandles and I'm here today to support the Celtic FC Foundation and the Football For Good Fund. All donations today are very, very much appreciated. Details on how to donate are on the screen, and full details on what the fund is doing is at footballforgoodfund.com. Thank you. Right, this next song is a brand new song. It's written by myself. It's on my new album. It's a song called The Big Cup. It tells the story of Lisbon '67. So hopefully you enjoy it. Here we go.
In 1967, in fair old Lisbon town, an airplane from Glasgow had just touched down on the ground. On board a famous cargo, unlike the world had seen, famous Glasgow Celtic and their leader, Big Shot Steen. And went into Nazi alley, where the darlings of the land, they all stood tall and handsome, and thought it's to the man. But down there in the tunnel, Bertie didn't give a damn. He belted out the Celtic song, and the others joined the band. There was Simpson, Craig and Gemmo, John Clark and Mick McNeil. Martha Canby, Bertie in the heart of the midfield. Johnston, Lennon, Wallace, Steve Chalmers in attack. When Celts walked out, there was no doubt they'd bring the big cup back, the big cup back, the big cup back. When Celts walked out, there was no doubt they'd bring the big cup back. The Celtics brand of football was so pleasing on the eye. But Sarty plays a blinder, there's no one can deny. Well, they took out a penalty against the run of play. Mazzola steps up Lord Steen has our philosophy to play the Celtic way. That afternoon in Lisbon turned from the sea did not stray. Big time unleashed the rockets, old Sarty never moved. When Marta hit one golden, Stevie Chalmers made it two. Those Simpson, Quaid and Gamble, Sean Clark and Big McNeil. Marta can be bounty in the heart of the midfield. Johnson, Lennox, Wallace, Steve Chalmers in attack. When the Saints walked out, there was no time to bring the big comeback, the big comeback, the big comeback. When the Saints walked out, there was no time to bring the big comeback. There are many years had come and gone since history was made. Celtic fans, both young and old, still hail the greatest day. When Caesar stood upon the steps and held the trophy high, Glasgow Celtic champions of Europe was the cry. There was Simpson, Craig and Gemmell, John Clark and Big McNeil. Marta can be bounty in the heart of the midfield. Johnson, Lennox, Wallace, Steve Chalmers in attack. When the Saints walked out, there was no time to bring the big comeback, the big comeback, the big comeback. When the Saints walked out, there was no time to bring the big comeback. When the Saints walked out, there was no time to bring the big comeback.
Thank you very much. That was the Big Cup. Right folks, going to play an old song now called Grace. As I say, donations on, or details on how to donate are on the screen. My name is Liam McGrandles and I've been here today to support Celtic FC Foundation, the Football for Good Fund. Just one quick recap before I go, just to let you know what the fund are doing. So in response to the COVID-19 crisis, the fund are providing food and essentials to those most in need just now and to those most vulnerable. So if you can spare something, it would go a long, long way. Thank you very much. So to finish up, it's a song called Grace.
As he gathered in the chapel here, oh, Kilmainham jail, I think about these past few weeks. Oh, will they say we failed from our school day? They told us we must yearn for liberty. Yet all I want in this dark place is to have you here with me. Oh, Grace, just hold me in your arms and let this moment linger. They'll take me out on and I will die. With all my love, I'll place this wedding ring upon your finger. Won't be time to share our love, for we must say goodbye. Now I know it's hard for you, my love, to ever understand the love I have for these brave men my love for this dear lad. But when Padre called me to his side, down in the GPO, I had to leave my own sick bed to heal my heart to know. Oh, Christus, hold me in your arms and let this moment linger. They will take me out of time, and I will die. With all my love, how this is waiting ring upon your finger. Won't be time to share love, for we must say goodbye. Now has the time is breaking, my heart is breaking too. I miss me more as I walk out, my thoughts will be of you. I will write some words upon the wall, so everyone will know I love so much that I could see his blood upon the road. Oh, Christus, hold me in your arms and let this moment linger. They'll take me out of time, and I will die. With all my love, how this is waiting ring upon your finger. Won't be time to share the love, for we must say goodbye. Oh, there won't be time to share the love, for we must say goodbye.
Thank you very much. That was a song called Grace. My name is Liam McGrandles. I've been here today to support the Celtic FC Foundation Football for Good Fund. Hope you've enjoyed the songs, and hope we all enjoy the game today. As I say, any donation will go a long, long way just now, so it's very, very much appreciated. And also on behalf of the foundation, thanks for all your support. It means a lot. Enjoy the game. Hail, hail.
Top of the league is where Celtic want to be. Top of the league is where Celtic are used to being. And a win against Livingston this afternoon, and Celtic are back there. Yes, it's a glorious day here at Celtic Park, and as the sun shines, a chance for Celtic to show any would-be challenger that the 9-in-a-row champions are up for the fight and ready to defend their title with some vigour. Welcome along to Celtic Park. It is an absolutely beautiful afternoon for a game of football. Welcome to those watching on the virtual pass if you're a season ticket holder, and of course welcome to our Celtic TV subscribers across the world. As you can see, former Celtic manager Gordon Strachan is here, as is Michael Stewart, to take us through the build-up to this game against Livingston. Before we chat to the guys, we might as well have a look and see what the Celtic team is, the Celtic lineup this afternoon. Who's Neil Lennon gone with? Well, he has gone with Barkas in goal. Possibly Frimpong, Ayer, El Hamid, Duffy and Taylor in a back five or a back three. Brown and McGregor, and Cham is there, Christie is there, so too Aiete. Odsonne Edouard is on the bench, as is David Turnbull. No place in the squad for Christopher Jullien. The manager did say he had picked up an injury in training yesterday. Gordon Strachan, I'll come to you first. How do you think Neil will set his team out? What kind of shape do you see there?
Probably the three centre backs, which can turn to a four at any time, depending on the situation, the pressure they're under. Width coming from Frimpong and Taylor. Midfield three, Nicham, McGregor and Brown, and probably Christie playing in that kind of Dele Alli role at Tottenham. But when he does play in there, he's got to remember that he doesn't play in number 10, that old-fashioned number 10. He just plays. He's got to use his ability to get him behind. And I think his number 10 is a good position for him, because I think the more they get him on the ball, the better the team they got. Because I think that there's players who are on fire at times. When you've got a player on fire, it's like Rangers with Kent, go and play anywhere. And I think it's the same now with Christie. You've seen his cross the other night there. When everything was logged up, he could throw in a cross, a magnificent cross. So I think they'll be saying to Christie, you just get everywhere, but remember, you can still run in behind.
Certainly a bit of squad rotation as well, Michael. Neil Lennon has got a number of players at his disposal, and with the games now coming thick and fast, he does seem to be using as many of them as he can.
Well, I mean, that's probably one thing that has not happened a great deal. You know, when Neil Lennon's been at Celtic, there's been a strong core of the team that's not fluctuated a great deal, but I think with the signing of Shane Duffy, there brings a flexibility to the team. You know, obviously, I think it will be a back three today, but as Gordon's talking about, it can flip to a back four quite easily with El Hamid playing that right-sided centre half, and it allows some players to get some rest time as well, because I think it's important when you look at the number of games that Celtic will play over the course of a season. You can't expect guys to year after year go and play. I think, what was it, like 60 odd games that Callum McGregor, for example, played. You can't do that, year after year. So it's important that they've got a strong squad. And I think when you look at Celtic's team that they've got out today, and you see some of the players that are not, starting the game, you realise that they've got a strong squad. Livingston
shipped 4 goals the last time they were here at Celtic Park. So Gordon, you would imagine they would come here and hope to defend and perhaps catch Celtic on the break. Of course, not having Lyndon Dykes now in their line-up is a big loss to them. No Anthony Stokes, of course, as well. Efe Ambrose, a familiar name there. Alan Forrest, James's brother,
yes,
on the bench. How do you see them approaching this one?
Well, as you say, it's a bit different from the style of last year when they had Lyndon up front. If they're under pressure, you could throw the ball up there. And you might not retain it, but you get a free kick or something like that. And also the fact is, when they did get up there, they could get free kicks thrown in the box and it'd be a threat from there. But I think it's got to be similar to what you've seen at Ross County. It's got to be similar to you see at St Mirren. They've just got to get back behind the ball. They don't really mean it at times. It's just a wave that comes on you, because a number of times people say, oh, they sit behind the ball, these teams. Well, they can't do anything else. They've not got the ability to break out of these kids. It's different if you're playing Atletico Bilbao when they go away back in there, Atletico Madrid, they go back in, or Leon, and then work their way through it with absolutely brilliant ability. These boys have not got that level, so they try and hang in there, similar to what St Mirren did the other night there, and try and get a set play. Because set plays, you're normally a bit equal at that point, because the rest of the time it's no equal, it's a mismatch at times. What they've got is guts. I watched them training last year at La Manga, where they've got a great team spirit, and they actually play some decent football when they're allowed to do it. So it's interesting, but as I said, they need a bit of luck. They need a goalkeeper playing really well, bit of luck, set plays, and see how it goes.
Of course, it feels like, Michael, that Celtic have been playing catch-up for quite a while, but a chance to go top might just be for a few hours. Of course, Rangers and Hibs both play tomorrow, but after at least getting one of the games back, that game against St Mirren, the pressure was on. Perhaps not the best performance, but as we can see here, Celtic going behind, but a win's a win, and it's all about the points.
I mean, look, there's no question about that. At this stage of the season, it's important to get the points rather than the performances. Equal, I think you want to get the two of them, but when you go 1-0 down, it's important that you get yourself back into the game and you pick up 3 points. There's the cross that Gordon was talking about earlier on. It's a really nice finish from James Forrest as well, and I think you make the point that it seems as if it's been catch-up for Celtic for a long time, and look, I think it's that way quite a lot of the time, because invariably there's games that Celtic will play that are on a Sunday and perhaps the last team to play in the weekend. So there's always a feeling of you're playing catch-up with regards to, always being behind the opponents. And it is important that they get those victories, and that was a huge one during the week. It was, especially as I said, when you're going 1-0 down, and this will be the same here again today. Gordon's talked about it and he's touched on it. Livingston will be very difficult to break down, whether it's by design or whether it's by default. They'll have so many bodies behind the ball, and that's difficult to play against at times.
Gordon, the manager, has spoken about wanting to bring in a psychologist to work with the team. I'm sure it's not to beat Livingston at Celtic Park, but in terms of this massive season and the kind of unusual surroundings of not playing in front of supporters, can you understand how he's trying to gain every edge possible?
Everybody looks to gain an edge, but I don't know how many trophies they've won so far without psychologists. It must be about 100. But I don't disregard psychology in any way. But I think psychology, 1-for-1, I'm fine. But I've worked with the best sports psychologist in the world, Sir Alex Ferguson. And whatever he did, you wouldn't have got in the Geneva Convention. You would have been thrown out for what happened in the dressing room at times. But it works. Klopp's the same, Mourinho's the same, Bielsa's the same. But I can see there is a place for individuals who might need that. But Neil Lennon is a psychologist for this whole place. Trust me, when he walks into his dressing room after a bad result, he walks into a training ground after a bad result, do they think they watch the psychologist coming in? No, they keep their eye on Neil Lennon. How is he dealing with it? What is he all about? And so far, through his career as a player and a manager, he's a man that can deal with it.
Man management. The best managers, as Gordon's talking about there, they're man managers, and that touches on psychology. The difference, obviously, this season is you look around here, there's nobody here, and that definitely brings a different side to it. I was talking to Jack Ross just the other day, and the feeling of there was a great sort of relief with the first few games of the season because everybody was back playing football. But now that it's settled into games like this, there's no question it is a little bit flatter, and you've got to try and bring that energy yourself, and sometimes it's not easy. And that's where perhaps, as Gordon talks about, 1-to-1 with a psychologist perhaps might bring some advantages.
And one-for-ones, on 1-for-1. But if I was a manager here, I would just whisper in her ear every second during the game, at training, round about training, remember 10 in a row.
Keep that at the back of their mind at all. And of course, bringing in new players can also help lift a team as well. And since Shane Duffy has come in, he's made himself a firm favourite with the Celtic fans. He's the player that everybody wants a piece of just now. And we managed to get a little bit closer than most this week and find out all about this lifelong Irish Celtic fan.
It's Duffy, a debut goal. It's a chance, it's a goal, and who else? Shane Duffy, 2 goals, 2 games.
Favourite ever Celtic match is Celtic beat Man United at Celtic Park when Nakamura scored a free kick, and that was my favourite ever Celtic match. Footballing hero was Roy Keane growing up. Captain of Ireland, the way he played, captain of Man United, and what a player. And I loved his character and personality. Anytime they beat Rangers. Probably the cup final recently. Fraser Foster was unbelievable, and I remember because it was sitting on the edge of my seat. I was nervous as well the last few minutes, but I remember going a bit over the top there. The fans, incredible fans, incredible. You know I'm going to say Bobo, aren't you? I used to love Cannavaro. Don't know why. I loved him. He was good. But I'm going to say Paul McGrath for Ireland. Any of them in the team. Big size 12s. A heading coach. Something to do with sports. No, do you know what? Probably be a bricky layer, something like that. I would say Odson. Odson, I obviously knew how good he was before I came here, but his feet and his finishing has been very, very top level. So I'd say Odson. You weren't happy with me, but I had to lay my marker down early doors. Best players I've played with, I would probably have to say Robbie Keane is one of the best players I've played with for Ireland. And the best player I've played against is Sergio Aguero. He's just scary. Oh, winning the Euros. I love Celtic, but I love Ireland as well, so I have to go from the country. But I'd say both.
We'll chat about Shane in a minute. First though, a chance for you to win yourself £3,000 in today's virtual Paradise Windfall draw. All you have to do to be in with a chance of winning the money is get yourself the Celtic Pools app downloaded onto your phone or your tablet. Inside that app you'll find a way of buying yourself a virtual ticket, and we will announce the winner of the £3,000 at half-time. So good luck if you do enter the virtual Paradise Windfall app. Of course, all net proceeds from that go to help the Celtic Academy. Shane Duffy then, Gordon Strachan, the fans absolutely love him. We know his capabilities, we know about his defensive headers, and he's a no-nonsense defender, as people call him, but he's bagged 2 goals since he's come here and he's become a firm favourite.
Yeah, and I suppose with the players as well, he's a real character, because every time a new character walks in the door, the players, their training, everything gets better. And I think it's great that character's walked through the door. And Gary Breen could be right, he could get 10 goals here, the way things are going. He's just pushing people out the way and saying that's man ball. And it's funny because I hear commentators say, oh, the marking's poor. Well, the marking's there, but they just can't compete with him. He's that bad. Number of times Michael's up tell you he's been standing at a free kick and somebody's rose above and went bang. Not because Michael's not trying, it's just that sometimes they're stronger, and that's what he does. But you've got to get delivery right, and delivery has been magnificent. And the funny thing about everybody talks about wonderful football, the 3 goals the other night there comes from crosses. It's massive. It's absolutely massive that you can deal with the ball attacking wise, but defending as well.
And for players like Ryan Christie, Michael, when they know they've got someone like Shane Duffy who's in there, again, it just encourages them to put these deliveries in and get them right.
Yeah, of course it does. I mean, it's like anything. If you're a midfield player and you're playing slide rule passes and the striker's blazing it left, right and centre over the crossbar, it's frustrating. As soon as you get somebody you know is going to put in the back of the net, it makes you look better. So equally, when you're putting crosses into the box, free kicks or corners, and you've got somebody, Shane Duffy's stature, it brings a little bit more confidence that you're going to get somebody on the end that could be putting the ball in the back of the net, and it makes you look better as well.
Michael's right. No matter when you're in trouble as a team, and sometimes you just don't play well and you can't flow, but you've got that thing in your locker where if we get a free kick, this big fella's coming up. And you've always got that, even if it's 1-1 with 10 minutes, if he's got a free kick, he can always produce that. And so can Julian, and so does Ayer. So there's 3 big hitters there, but I think he's the best attacking the ball.
You mentioned about having a big character come into the new dressing room. He's playing alongside Christopher Ayer, and we think El Hamid in a back 3. Is it the fact that he just comes with that kind of stature, the reputation as well, and the fact that clearly you can see from listening to him there that he's a good guy to be around, that just helps these guys settle?
I thought the interview was fantastic. There's a bit of life about it. Normally, I did that, I scored a goal, there was a bit of life about his interview. So that's what you're getting in the dressing room and the part. So you're getting not only his knowledge, but his personality through that interview. So it was a fantastic interview.
The thing is, and Gordon will tell you this as well, football and society's changed so much now. Characters are few and far between. There's so many people that are just they get on with their own thing, they keep their head down and they don't say boot or a goose. Sometimes you need, those people that are going to be leaders, and I think, looking from the outside in when Shane Duffy was coming, and I don't know the guy, but you could tell the guy was a character. You can start to see that, not just on the park, but you can see it around, his teammates as well. they'll feed off of that. It's great when you've got new players coming through the door, and when they're good characters as well, and they're big characters, that's an extra bonus.
Great for goalkeepers as well to know that they have defenders in front of them like Shane Duffy. And Celtic have got a goalkeeper now, Gordon, who had some big gloves to fill when he came to the club. Obviously, Fraser Forster was such a favourite and had such fantastic performances last season. Barkas, especially against Ross County, really came into his own with some fantastic saves.
Yeah, it was good because he was under scrutiny for a couple of goals in the European tie here. But the word is that he's a fantastic character as well as being a good goalkeeper who wants to join in. Sometimes people come along here and they wait and have a look at it, and they've not got the personality to join in. But I'm told he has got a great personality, and he loves working with the players, so that's fantastic. And he can pull out these things, and the more he gets used to it, and also the edge as well, as you talk about crowds, you need that edge for a goalkeeper, especially to have that crowd. The rest of us can get caught up in the game as such, playing, but for the goalkeeper, it's isolated when you're away down there on your own with no crowd or something like that. It really is a problem.
It helps with concentration if there's a crowd.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Especially as Gordon's saying, as a goalkeeper, when you're not involved in large swathes of the game and there's nobody around,
even
you can switch
as you
off.
say it, Michael, at the other end, it's going close, and you can feel that build up for the crowds. So for the goal, he's always on his toes, but if he can't hear, it's a problem for him.
And of course, for Barkas, he would be wanting to prove himself to the Celtic supporters. So in a sense that was a good game for him to get the chances to show what he can do.
It was, because there was the European tie. There was a few question marks. He's come in. He's not the same stature as Fraser Forster, but that game against Ross County, I think, is the one that has allowed him to settle in a little bit.
Let's hear from Celtic manager Neil Lennon then ahead of this one. He is with John Ledwith.
Neil, thanks for joining us. First of all, turning to the team sheet, Christopher Julian drops out entirely this afternoon. I know you mentioned he may have an injury. Is that something that may keep him out for just a short period?
Well, we're hoping so. He sort of picked up a back strain in training on Thursday, and he was too sore to train yesterday, and obviously we're going to give him a few days just to see how he is, so hopefully he'll be okay for Riga.
And Albion Ayeti leads the line. Odsonne Edouard drops to the bench. Is that a reflection of one needing more game time and one perhaps having quite a lot of game time recently?
Spot on, yeah. Odsonne's feeling a bit tired, fatigued. He's been away with France, and then he's come back and had 2 games in quick succession. So he didn't feel fresh enough to start today, but it's a great substitute to have. And in Albion, we've got a player who, still finding his best match fitness, but certainly his contribution so far has been fantastic.
Now, through no fault of your own, you've had to play a bit of catch-up after day one of the season. How important is it that today you take the advantage and move top of the table?
Yeah, it's a great incentive for us and a great motivation going into the game. It's brilliant being back at home as well. We've had 4 away games out of the 6, so to be back here at Celtic Park on a great day, the pitch is perfect, so we're very much looking forward to the game. It's important to win it, and we're looking for a good performance, but every game we play, we're looking to win.
And it's a day that will mean a lot to Shane Duffy, a man from Derry like yourself, coming to Celtic Park on match day for the first time.
Yeah, it takes me back. It's a wonderful feeling. He's had a great start to his Celtic career. We're delighted to get him. He's settling in very well. The players are really taking to him, and his performances have been excellent, so we're looking for more of the same.
And this afternoon's opponents, Livingston, they have made life difficult in the past couple of seasons. They do know how to keep a clean sheet. Is it the extra ingredient that you need today just to make sure of things?
Yeah, obviously keeping the door closed at the back. I think they're strong at set plays. I think they set up with the back 3, so they come to be hard to beat. And they're a great story, Livingston. Back-to-back promotions and quite comfortably standing in the division. I think they're going through a bit of a transition period, but they're still worthy opponents and one that we have maximum concentration for.
Well, all the very best again this afternoon, Neil.
Thanks, Sean.
We're 10 minutes from kick-off here at Celtic Park. Gordon Strachan and Michael Stewart here with me pitch side. Darren O'Dea and Rory Hamilton will be in the commentary position just in a few minutes. The manager there speaking about Albion Ayeti, he's a player who has come in. He said one start, Gordon, I think I'm right in saying a couple of substitute appearances. I don't think he's yet got 60 minutes under his belt, but he's got 3 goals. Yeah, that is something that Neil was really wanting when he brought him in.
Yeah, but you'll find that you'll always get chances at Celtic, that's for sure. There's been so many players scored 20 and odd goals a season here, that's for sure, because there is chances. It's just getting close enough to the box for him. But when he does finish them, he will finish them, that's for sure. And I think he's better when it's packed defences. I think with Kamala the other night there, I think he just need a bit more space to run into. I think with the packs of it, he'll be decent. But you remember, he's always usually coming on when people are tiring. So it'd be good to see what he's like from the start.
Brings a different dimension, Michael. I mean, Gordon says he kind of seems to enjoy packed defences. It's maybe something that Celtic didn't have before he joined. The manager said he reminds him a bit about Gary Hooper. Can you see the similarities?
Well, I think when you look at his ability in striking the ball, it does look a little bit, and physique-wise as well, it does remind you of a Gary Hooper. Again, Gordon's touching on the fact that in packed defences he somehow manages to find a bit of space, and I think his ability of striking the ball is very, very good. It's very different from the other strikers that are there, and it's almost like, split second, his instinct is bang, and he hits the target.
I've got no idea what you just said there, Michael, but I'm sure it was very interesting because of that loud announcement. Did you hear him, Gordon?
Yeah, what a heap of rubbish. So well done. No, we've got it, and Michael's right, because he's that. I just want to score striker.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I don't want to run out the box. Big Edward, if you watch him, he's always having an extra touch to finish. Everything has to be nice with him. It's lovely to watch. If you watch it done yet, he had a couple of times where he had a touch before he has another. This guy's always got himself in a body position. It's one touch finish. So that's where it might help.
Yeah.
But again, they've still got to make the chances. But Celtic have got to vary the player thing. The cross the other night coming in and playing. And so the defenders don't know what's coming. I think if sometimes Celtic get are just playing and hope something will happen. The defenders go, right, I'm used to this. But the other night there, what surprised them was that ball coming in early. I think that has to be a variation to play for Celtic, and that'll make it harder for defenders to understand what they're going to do.
What does Christie bring to the game, playing in that position, perhaps just off Ayeti?
Well, I mean, Gordon was talking about earlier on. He's game intelligence now. He's at a level where he can affect the game, whether he's centrally or whether he drifts to either side. When you think about him when he was on loan at Aberdeen, and sometimes he did play off the side, and he didn't have that same impact. When he got into the Celtic team, invariably it was as a central area, but he got himself to such a level and confidence that even when he starts to play off a side, he understands where to be at the right time to have an impact in the game. And he is one of the go-to guys that comes up with big moments in the game.
I think he could play all along the line. He could play anywhere. I think he could play anywhere. But he's got to remember to try and get him behind at the same time. And that's why I keep going back to Dele Alli. At his best, Dele Alli could do that, and he was a threat. The number of times you see him going in the box, winning headers and things like that, early crosses. I think if he adds that to his game, and so he just always take it on the turn, then he's a huge threat, because if he starts to run behind, defenders will step off and think, I better protect it. Then he can go and get turned and have that wonderful shot he's got.
One final reminder that if you want him with a chance to win the £3,000 in the Paradise Windfall draw, you need to download the Celtic Pools app. You'll find it on your app store, or if you're on Android, you'll find it there as well. Download that app, find out in the app how to download and get yourself a ticket. I'll get these words out, I think I know what I'm talking about. £2 a ticket, Gordon, and you can win yourself £3,000. We will announce the winner at half-time. So if you do buy yourself a ticket and you're the lucky winner, you will know at half-time. Thanks to Michael, thanks to Gordon. That music tells me that the teams are about to come out onto the pitch and to throw to our commentators. So let's go then to Rory Hamilton and to Darren O'Dea.
Well, thank you very much, Jerry. A first outing at Celtic Park in September for Neil Lennon's side. And the top line, the agenda for Celtic this afternoon is that they can return to the top of the Premiership by the end of play today with a victory. And here's how the Celtic side line up as Neil Lennon makes 3 changes following the victory in Paisley on Wednesday night. In come Jeremy Frimpong, Olivier Ncham and Albion Ayeti. For James Forrest, Patrick Klimala and Odsonne Edouard. Christopher Jullien misses out injured. He had a late fitness test but didn't pass. But Shane Duffy will look to continue his start in hoops with 2 goals in his first 2 games. Tom Rogic netted a late winner, a late equaliser rather, in the last meeting between the sides last season, and the Australian is amongst the substitutes. Kieran Brown comes back in after over a month out of action for Livingston as Gary Holt looks to bolster his defence. Craig Sibbald and Scott Tiffany are the others promoted to the starting lineup. Efe Ambrose spent 5 years here, accumulating over 100 appearances for Celtic, while John Guthrie got the recent winner against Ross County in their league encounter. Well, Celtic have enjoyed 3 wins on the spin since the disappointment here against Ferencvaros, and with a trip to Latvia sandwiched between 2 domestic games here. Hibernian are the visitors next weekend. They'll be desperate to pick up maximum points to solidify their position in the table. And as I mentioned, they can move into pole position in the Premiership table this evening with a victory, albeit it could just be for a short period of time, with Hibernian hosting Rangers tomorrow. They're currently sitting in 1st and 3rd in the table. On a stunning sunny afternoon in Glasgow, the visitors are Livingston. They have an entirely different agenda to that of Neil Lennon's side. Only off the bottom of the table on goal difference, and with only 1 victory to their name this season, that aforementioned one against Ross County just before the break. That said, outside of the top 4 in the table, it's an extremely congested and area, and a decent result can make a significant difference at this stage of the campaign. Celtic Park, though, not the venue Gary Holt would have picked first to get a victory, but the Lions have proved to be one of Celtic's toughest opponents in recent encounters, allowing them just 1 victory in the last 5 meetings. They have been a bit of a bogey team for Celtic of late, so a few scores to settle. The Celtic defence in particular will be happy to see the back of Lyndon Dykes, who gave him a torrid time in the meetings at the Tony Macaroni Arena last season. Well, delighted to say that Darren O'Day is alongside me up in the gantry. Darren, what are you expecting to see from Celtic this afternoon?
I think Gordon touched on it pre-match, that I think you'll see Livingston sit behind the ball, try to soak up as much pressure as possible, be tough to break down, and make it a frustrating afternoon for Celtic. And the longer the game goes on, they'll hope that they can maybe break on Celtic or look to set plays to score from. This, as you said, is a notoriously tricky fixture for Celtic, so I'm expecting another tough afternoon.
It's a formation that can always be fluid, but I think fans were really calling to see the 3-5-2 in action. Do you like the way that things are starting to look with that system in place?
Yeah, I do. I think at times Neil Lennon has just put what he considers the best team on the pitch with the best players, and they kind of find the shape a little bit. I think they can rotate from a back 4 to a back 3 even in play. I think we've seen that against St Mirren midweek. But Celtic have more than enough quality on the pitch here today to win. So regardless of who Neil Lennon picks, he's got a vast array of talent on the bench as well. And certainly the ones he's picked today, you'd expect them more than enough to beat Livingston.
Vasilis Barkas continues in goal. Celtic's new number 1, and protected by a defence of Hatem El Hamed, Shane Duffy and Christopher Ayer. And what a start Shane Duffy has made with his boyhood heroes. 2 goals in 2 games, but a dream for him coming true this afternoon with his first appearance at Celtic Park, albeit without 60,000 supporters backing. It's a day he'll have looked forward to for many, many years indeed. It's shown to be a real threat in both boxes so far. Scott Brown and Marvin Bartley, the 2 skippers for this one. Former Hibernian player Bartley, now with Livingston. And the final words of encouragement. Scott Brown, as always, setting the tone, setting the standard